Mom dragged home 2 greasy sausages from the gas station. She'd make my sister Bella and me draw straws to decide who got them. Every damn time I pulled the short straw and like clockwork. Bella pulled the long one. She got both sausages. If I dared to bitch about it, Mom would huff, roll her eyes and bark. I bought this drawing kit specifically to keep things square. So you wouldn't whine. I wanted to be fair. But rules are rules, Harper. It ain't my fault. Your luck sucks. This bullshit went on until my birthday. Bella wanted to go to Six Flags. And Mom predictably made us draw straws to decide who got to pick the destination for the day. This time, I'd had enough. I secretly glued 2 short straws together with super glue, pretending I'd drawn the long one. Mom's hand connected with my face like a baseball bat. You cheating little shit, she screamed, her face twisting into pure, ugly rage. She grabbed Bella's hand and stormed out of the trailer, leaving me crumpled on the linoleum floor. The short plastic straw I'd been clutching had snapped and pierced straight into the side of my neck. Something hot and wet sprayed over my hair. I tried to wipe it away, but my limbs felt heavy. Then suddenly light as a feather. I watched the ceiling fade away as I floated upward. That's when it hit me. I was dead. Footsteps thumped outside my bedroom door. When I didn't open it, the doorknob rattled violently. Bulking won't save your ass. Mom yelled through the wood. You had bad luck and pulled the short straw. Own it. God. You're growing up to be such a bitch giving me this attitude. Bella's voice whined from the hallway. Mom, come on. The park is gonna get crowded. Mom gave up on the door. I heard her snatch the car keys off the counter. We'll be out late. Don't expect us for dinner. There's a cold drumstick on the table. Eat that and don't say I'm not fair. Your sister hasn't had it either. This time, I ain't even making you draw for it. Consider it a handout. The fried chicken leg on the table was stale, left over from yesterday's bucket. Mom had made us draw for it then, too. I got the short one. Obviously. I hadn't tasted meat in weeks. Yesterday when I reached for it, Mom had slapped my hand so hard it swelled up instantly. Did you forget the damn rules? She'd screeched. Short straw loses. That chicken is Bella's. Touch it again and I'll break your fingers. But today she was graciously letting me have the scraps. Except she forgot one thing. I was a ghost now. I tried to grab the chicken, but my hand passed right through it. A mangy stray cat with a torn ear squeezed through the open window, snatched the drumstick and hissed at me before bolting. I couldn't stop it. I could only curl up in the corner of my filthy room, sobbing without tears. I lost track of time before Dad, Mom and Bella came back. They looked disgusting, sweaty, loud and glowing with a happiness that made me sick. Mom, that giant stuffed unicorn is so fluffy. I love it. Can we get ice cream now? Bella chirped. Mom kissed her forehead, leaving a smudge of lipstick. Mommy's tapped out for cash, sweetie. Bella scoffed and pushed her away. Don't kiss me then. We haven't drawn straws for a kiss. What if Harper sees? She'll bitch about it being unfair again. He's probably rotting in her room crying right now. It is her birthday, I guess. Mom glanced at the table. The chicken bone was gone. She let out a dry, cruel cackle. If she could pull a long straw for once, I'd kiss her, too. But the girls cursed. Besides, look. She ate the chicken. She's just being a petty brat hiding in there. Bella, your sister has a small heart. Don't waste your time worrying about her. No one could see me. No one knew. My corpse was cooling in a pool of blood behind my bedroom door. Mom started banging pots and pans, making a midnight snack. She shouted toward my room in a mocking sing-song tone. Hey, Your Highness. Sure you don't want to come out and draw straws. I'm making mac and cheese with bacon. Don't come crying later that you didn't get any. Dad slumped on the couch with a beer, grunted. Why bother if she ain't playing? Just make what Bella likes. Let the ungrateful little shit starve. We raised her and this is the thanks we get attitude. I stood next to him screaming silently. What difference does drawing make? For 10 years, the dinner table was a shrine to Bella's taste buds. I lived on white rice and scraps. But at least they didn't let me starve to death, right? Until today. Mom made Bella a feast. The three of them sat there laughing. Mouths full of food. I drifted closer to the table and saw a white box on the chair. A cake. I turned to the stray cat, which had brazenly returned to the windowsill. See that? They bought a birthday cake. They didn't forget. The cat looked at me with yellow eyes that seemed to say, "You idiot." Mom handed the cake box to Bella. You wanted to try this bakery, right? Got it just for you. But eat it in your room. If Harper sees it, she'll throw a tantrum. I was crying, but not because of the cake. I was crying because I realized the truth. Even if I played their game, I never stood a chance. Have you ever tasted cake? I asked the cat. Suddenly, the beast leaped into the room, swiped the box out of Bella's hands and tore it open, burying its face in the frosting before darting back. Out the window, Bella shrieked as the cat scratched her arm. She burst into fake dramatic tears. Mom grabbed a glass vase and hurled it at my bedroom door, shattering it against the wood. Harper, you did that on purpose. Didn't you? Why the hell didn't you close the window? When I didn't answer, Mom looked ready to kill. But Dad grabbed her arm. Leave her. Let's get Bella to the for that scratch. They didn't come back until 3:00 am. They banged on my door. When I didn't answer, Dad grabbed a hammer, threatening to smash the lock. But the neighbor, old Mrs. Gable, started pounding on the wall, screaming about the noise. He cursed me out through the door one last time and went to bed. The next morning, Mom came home with a new princess dress for Bella. Bella twirled in the living room, preening like a peacock. I cried when I got my tetanus shot. So Mom felt bad. We went shopping and had steak for lunch. You've never had steak, have you, Harper? Sucks to be you. My blood had started to seep under the door gap. Bella stepped right in it. She slipped hard. Thump. She screamed, bringing both parents running. What the hell? Where is this coming from? Dad stared at the dark, sticky puddle, his face pale. It looks like it's coming from Harper's room. Oh, it smells like rusty metal. Bella wailed. Mom exploded. She kicked the door, shaking the frame. Harper, get your ass out here. You made your sister bleed and now you're hiding. Open this fucking door. Mom was going for the kill. This time, she kicked again and again. My body, lying just on the other side, was being slammed by the door with every kick. The lock held. Mom had to drag Bella to the bathroom to wash the filth off her. I floated downstairs and saw something that made my ghost form tremble. The drawing kit, the box they used for the straws, had fallen off the shelf during the commotion. It had cracked open. I looked inside. There were no long straws. Every single straw in that box was cut short. They never loved me, not even a little bit. The game was just a condom for their conscience. A way to screw me over while pretending to be fair. After the second hospital trip, Mom and Dad started treating me like a ghost. Before they even knew I was one. They stopped setting a plate for me. They stopped calling my name. They just focused on spoiling Bella rotten. This went on for days until the stench became undeniable. Mrs. Gable knocked on the front door looking green. Brenda, my apartment smells like something died in your vents. And I haven't seen Harper in a week. Mom marched to my door and hammered on it. Harper, did you take a crap in your room? Are you trying to shame me? Make the neighbors think I'm running a pigsty. Silence. Mrs. Gable looked worried. Maybe we should call the super or the police. Kid can't live in there without food for a week. I looked at Mom, hoping for a flicker of worry. I got nothing but disgust. She put Bella in the hospital twice this week. With her hexes and bad vibes. She's fine. Bella is the victim here. After she left, Mom scraped the leftovers into the trash. You wanna starve? Fine. Starve. I'm calling the school tomorrow to withdraw you. Keeping you home will save me lunch money. Anyway. My body was decomposing rapidly. The smell was thick, flowing like rotten meat and old cheese. Even Mom and Dad were gagging. Spraying air freshener everywhere. They convinced themselves I was just being a filthy animal. Refusing to use the bathroom. Mrs. Gable couldn't take it. She called the cops. When Mom saw blue lights flashing outside, she went ballistic. Who called the pigs? Did we kill someone? No. This is harassment, ma'am. The officer said, stepping into the hallway. Wrinkling his nose. Immediately. We have a report of a child possibly being held against their will. She's locking herself in, Mom shrieked. She's mentally unstable. She's disgusting. The cops weren't listening. They smelled death. Open the door. Ma'am, now. No, she's naked. She's acting out. Dad tried to play the good guy. Let Harper explain herself so we can stop this charade. The officer didn't wait. He kicked the door. Near the lock crack, the door swung open. The stench hit them like a physical blow. Flies buzzed out in a black cloud. The officer, a man named Miller who had seen 10 years of domestic disputes and meth lab blowouts, didn't scream. He threw up. It was a violent, retching sound that echoed in the cramped hallway. Behind him, my mother's face didn't register grief. It registered inconvenience. She looked at my bloated, discolored remains, the girl who had finally won the short straw for good, and her first instinct wasn't to cry. It was to wipe the splatter of Miller's vomit off her shoe. See, she hissed, her voice a jagged glass edge. See what she did. She did this to spite me. She sat in here and let herself rot just to bring the law to my door. Ma'am, the second officer said, his voice trembling as he pulled his radio. Step back. Step back right now. I stood in the corner, a shimmer in the air that nobody noticed. I watched them find the straw. It was still lodged in my neck, a jagged piece of cheap, red plastic that had found the carotid artery with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. It looked like a tiny, mocking flag planted in a conquered territory. Bella pushed her way to the front, clutching her new princess dress. She took one look at me and didn't cry. She didn't even flinch. She just pointed at my desk. She has my glitter pens, Bella whined. Mom, can I get them before they take her away? That was the moment the temperature in the room dropped 40 degrees. It wasn't my sadness anymore. It was a cold, hard realization. My family wasn't a tragedy, they were a parasitic infection. And the only way to cure an infection is to burn it out. The next few days were a blur of flashbulbs and yellow tape. They carried me out in a black bag. I followed, drifting like smoke behind the gurney. I watched the coroner's face as he undid the buttons of my thrift store shirt. He counted my ribs. He noted the old fractures in my fingers, the ones Mom broke for the rules. But the real evidence was back at the trailer. Detective Miller stayed behind. He was a quiet man, the kind who noticed the things people tried to hide in plain sight. While my parents were being interrogated in separate rooms at the station, Miller walked back into the living room. He saw the drawing kit on the floor. He picked it up, turning it over in his gloved hands. He saw the crack where it had fallen. He opened it. I stood over his shoulder, my ghostly breath ruffling the hair on his neck. He took out the straws. One by one. He laid them out on the grease-stained coffee table. Short. 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 He pulled out every single one. There were 52 straws in that box. Not one of them was more than 2 inches long. Miller leaned back, a low, guttural curse escaping his lips. He wasn't just looking at a tragic accident anymore. He was looking at a decade of premeditated cruelty. Mom and Dad were released on bail. The evidence was circumstantial, their lawyer argued. Harper was a troubled child, a self-harmer. They tried to play the grieving parents on the local news, Mom wearing a black veil she'd bought at a thrift store, dabbing dry eyes with a handkerchief. But back in the trailer, the air was changing. The first night back, Mom went to make dinner. She reached for the mac and cheese. Snap. She shrieked, pulling her hand back. A plastic straw, long and jagged, was sticking out of the box of pasta. It hadn't been there a second ago. Bella, she roared. Stop playing games. I didn't do anything. Bella yelled from the couch, where she was trying to brush the hair of her giant stuffed unicorn. Then came the sound. Tapping. Tap. 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 It came from inside my bedroom door. The door that was now sealed with police tape. Dad, drunker than usual to drown out the bad vibes, hammered on the wall. Shut up. Harper, I told you to shut. He stopped. His face went gray. He remembered. Harper was at the morgue. I appeared behind him, not as the girl they knew, but as the thing they had made me. My neck was a jagged red ruin. My skin was the color of a bruised plum. I leaned into his ear. Rules are rules, Dad, I whispered. He spun around, knocking over his beer. There was nothing there but a single, red plastic straw rolling across the floor. The trial was a circus, but the haunting was a private theater. By the time the jury was being impaneled, my parents were losing their minds. They couldn't sleep. Every time they closed their eyes, they heard the sound of straws being rustled in a box. Every meal they ate tasted like copper, the taste of my blood on the linoleum. Bella was the first to break. She woke up screaming because her long straw luck had run out. All her toys, the unicorn, the dresses, the jewelry, had been shredded. In their place, hundreds of short straws were taped to her walls, forming the shape of a girl with a hole in her neck. On the final night of the trial, the house was silent. The jury was deliberating. Mom sat at the kitchen table, a bottle of cheap gin in front of her. Dad was slumped opposite her. We need a plan, Dad muttered. If we get convicted, we run. We take the car and the cash under the mattress. There's only enough for two, Mom whispered, her eyes darting to Bella's room. The air grew heavy. The lights flickered and died. I manifested at the head of the table. I wasn't floating anymore. I felt heavy. I felt real. I reached into the air and pulled out the drawing kit. It looked brand new. I set it on the table between them. One last time, I said. My voice didn't sound like a child's, it sounded like the grinding of tectonic plates. For old time's sake. Mom tried to scream, but no sound came out. Her throat was filled with dry, yellow straw. She coughed, choking on the plastic. Draw, I commanded. Dad's hand shook as he reached toward the box. I tilted it toward him. If you pull the long straw, you live. You walk out that door, and the police forget your names. You get to be the happy family you pretended to be. His eyes lit up with a pathetic, desperate hope. He reached in. He pulled. Short. He stared at the stubby piece of plastic. No. No, wait. One more. Best of three. Rules are rules, I said. I turned to Mom. She was blue in the face, clawing at her throat. I reached into her mouth and pulled out a handful of straws, allowing her to breathe. Your turn, Brenda. She didn't want to. I forced her hand. Her fingers closed around a straw. She pulled it out slowly, praying to a god she never served. Short. She looked into the box. There were dozens left. Where are the long ones? She wailed. You said there was a long one. I tipped the box over. 100 straws spilled across the table. I picked them up, one by one, and held them to the light. I lied, I said, a cold smile spreading across my translucent face. I learned from the best. When the police arrived the next morning to take them to the courthouse for the verdict, they found the trailer door wide open. Bella was sitting on the front step, catatonic, clutching a single red straw. Inside, my parents were still at the table. They weren't dead, not yet. But they were changed. The drawing kit had been fused to their hands with something that looked like super glue but smelled like burning flesh. They were surrounded by thousands of straws, thousands of losing chances. They were found guilty on all counts: neglect, abuse, manslaughter. But the prison didn't matter. Because every time they tried to eat, the food turned to plastic. Every time they tried to sleep, they felt the sting of a slap that never ended. I didn't go to heaven. I didn't go to hell. I stayed in the trailer. I watched the stray cat with the torn ear move back in. I sat on the windowsill and watched the sun go down. For the first time in my life, and my death, the house was quiet. I picked up the last straw on the floor. I snapped it in half. I finally got the biggest piece.